and harmony amongst the faithful by his acts? I think not.
Oh, have no fear. We will create harmony.
We?
In days to come, the foundation of state and religion will in every way be strengthened by our actions. If in the process more bloodshed is required, heaven forbid. But if it should be, even of a prodigality that seems to know no bounds, then so be it. It is for the future life and health of our country. And like the rain, which quickens the earth, we shall not flinch from it.
I think you will enjoy every minute of it. Is this a man of God speaking, or is it one of King Ardashir's lackeys?
I would advise you...
Advise me nothing! Give it back to him.
You would do well to read this.
And if I do not?
Then he will conquer your kingdom like he has the rest of Iran, and you will be forced to read it.
He has not succeeded so far. He has failed once.
But he will not fail again. He has the strength of God behind him.
So have I.
You do not.
We have the same God behind us. Which do you think he will choose? The peaceable king? Or the despot who exploits his name to rule by fear and violence?
He is no despot. You will regret saying such things. You do not share his God. As chief priest of the Church of Zarathustra, I tell you, you do not worship the same God unless you accept that there is but one God.
Oh, I accept that.
And there is but one king who represents him on earth, and that is Adashar, worthy successor to Vishtashpad and Darius the Great.
So for the last 550 years, the whole of Iran has been godless. Is that correct? Because each province had its own king who worshipped at his own royal fire.
They will be forgiven their mistakes if they accept the truth.
No. And this one king. Is he to be the sole spokesman on earth for the true word of God?
He has many duties. You must read what he has to say.
Is there something in it that will shock me? Surely not. After all you have said. You, our spiritual leader.
I bring with me the power to remove your royal power, and if you resist, I will send troops that will raise your temple to the ground.
So there to be no more sacred fires. Is that your great plan?
On the contrary, we shall establish more sacred fires, but there will only be one royal fire, the fire of King Adeshah himself. And there will be no more worship of cult gods in their statues. For they, too, are a blasphemy against the truth and purity of Ahura Mazda.
But that is impossible. The Greeks and the Romans have their statues. The Buddhists have them. Even the Jews and the Christians have them.
They will be torn down. All statues and images are against the true spirit of the one religion, and they will be destroyed, even the statues of your ancestors.
We have always allowed other faiths to worship as they wished. It is one of the great strengths of our religion.
Yes. But our excessive tolerance has weakened and endangered our faith. So much so that we have been in danger of being overpowered by the ideas of the other religions. But the danger should no longer exist, because henceforth we shall permit our people to worship no other god but Ahura Mazda and practice the original faith of Zarathustra.
You cannot do this.
The practices of the religion have been established. Therefore, they must be maintained in the orthodox form throughout the realm.
You dare not.
Dare not. Fortunately, we have once more a brave and strong king who sees that there is but one God and is not afraid to worship him with all the strength of his command.
Terrified by pressures from rival religions, the Zoroastrian church grew more and more hostile and intolerant. Some priests became corrupt and acquired power and wealth by demanding payments from the people through complex rituals. On the other hand, some great traditions were formed by other priests which are still observed to this day. These times engendered a genuine renaissance in various artistic disciplines. Fine jewelry and silverwork was crafted. Styles of architecture developed. Rock relief sculpting emerged. Literature appeared. It was a time of stunning testimonies to the exceptional inherent talents and traditions Zoroastrians are capable of, and which in fact form the basis of many of the world's contemporary customs and practices. The striking similarities one finds in Christianity and Judaism in modern life emanated from ancient Zoroastrian traditions.
How did it benefit us?
For one thing, various parts of the Avesta during this period were gathered together and were translated into Pahlavi, the language of the people, and that began sometime around the 3rd century AD. By that time, the Vandidag, our equivalent to the book of Leviticus in the Bible, had already been compiled.
And what is contained in the Vandidag?
Nay, Jamna Tivachwan, from right to left, from right to left.
Sorry.
It's one of the first books that deals with the laws and our social customs of our religion. It concerns the laws of purity and purification, but deals with the problems of pollution, disease, and death.
I've always been convinced, it's a feeling I have, that I will die in India. And if that is so, I will go through this ceremony. I believe I have a soul.
The dead are devoured by vultures, thereby recycling and purifying the remains. The Towers of Silence are scientifically designed with limestone pits which serve to filter the remains so they can't pollute the earth. And so, the flesh becomes the earth, the breath becomes the wind, the bones become stones.
Why don't we bury them or burn them instead of feeding them to the vultures?
Is it better to let the bodies be eaten by worms or to leave them to be roasted? We believe that by burying the body, we are polluting the earth. And by burning them, we are committing an even greater sin by desecrating the fire.
In other words, if we were to bury them at sea, we'd be polluting the water then.
Yes.
Did this practical side, the emphasis on involvement with this world rather than the next, did it add fuel to our conflict with the Christians? Because they firmly believed and they had their eyes on the next world, isn't it?
That's right. And in the Holy Roman Empire, Christianity became the enemy of our religion. Then an even greater threat sprang up.
The Prophet Muhammad was born 570 years after the death of Christ. By the time of his death, his armies were spreading Islamic gospel far beyond Arabia. Their conquests were rapid and savage. But these Arabs were fighting a religious crusade. First, Babylon fell, then Damascus, then Syria and Palestine, North Africa, and then Nahavand. The Muslims' brilliant victory at Nahavand changed the course of history. Under early Arab rule, those refusing to convert to Islam were heavily taxed. Even those who paid were often tortured and killed. The Holocaust continued.
Will you convert now?
No! Oh. Throw the coffin out. Now, where is your money?
I have brought no money.
Have you come to tell me that you will throw away your custody and submit to the will of our God?
No.
My lord.
Then why are you here?
I was brought here because I persuaded one of your converts to return to the true faith.
I see. You know, it is against our law to do what you have done. You know what we do to those who break our laws.
But why? When there are so many similarities between our two religions. We too pray 5 times a day. We too believe in heaven and hell.
You blaspheme against our faith by comparing it with yours.
But what do you have against us? We even believe in one God as you do.
But not the same God.
Then are the gods of the Jews and the Christians the same as your gods? Why do you accept their prophets, Moses and Jesus? If you can accept them, then why not accept us? You even accept their sacred books.
Because you are not people of the book. Your religion has no book.
We have our sacred works like you do.
You call them sacred.
They are sacred to us, and they are older, much older than yours.
They are nothing. How can we take seriously the works that for centuries have not been written down, but were kept in the minds of your priests?
Because much of what they preserved is the voice of our prophet himself, his very own words, unlike the book of the Christians, which contains not the words of Christ himself, but only the words of his disciples and followers. So how can you tell me that their book is more sacred than ours?
I need not tell you anything. You are the one who needs to convince me, and you have failed to do so with all your preposterous arguments.
The only reason I have failed is because you refuse to listen.
You dare to say that? All right, I will listen. But first answer me this. You call your religion great, a religion that believes in renunciation, self-denying, and celibacy.
My religion demands no such thing. That is one of the heresies that crept in at a later stage. Our religion is opposed to all pessimistic beliefs.
Indeed. Your wealthy Sasanians were great exploiters. Their priests made life unbearable for the suffering poor.
Just as you do. And yet, they were able to promote learning and to create great works of art, literature, and music. And don't forget, like you, they fought against the worship of images and idols.
That's enough. I will have no more of this.
When you run out of answers, then you demand blind obedience. You want all men to be powerless before you. My religion teaches me that a man has the freedom to think and then to believe.
Take him away. Let him pay for what he has done.
Where does your prophet say that my people must be killed?
It was after the 9th century, when all reasoning failed, that some of the Zoroastrians set sail to find a new homeland. Their destination was India, to a part that had escaped the Muslim invasion. The long sea voyage finally ended as they landed on the island of Diu, off the west coast of India.
अब तो कौन छे क्या थी आवे छे
खबर નથી સાહેબ ચાલો ત્યાં ચાલીને જઈએ
What do you want here?
We seek sanctuary and the right to light our sacred fire here and practice our religion in your land.
Bring me the holy box.
I'd like to show you something. These are our sacred ashes, which we brought from Iran. When my forefathers asked for a homeland in India, I wonder if they were reminded of the Hindu scriptures which state, to do good to others is not to give them physical comforts or to raise their standard of living. It is to help others to find their true nature, to attain true happiness.
You're welcome to rest here, of course, for as long as you wish. And every hospitality we can offer you is yours. Well, perhaps not everything.
You're very grateful,
Your Majesty. Well, after you have recovered and refreshed from your journey, I'm sure you will be longing to get on to your destination. What is it?
I think, Your Majesty, what he means is they were hoping to be able to stay here.
What? Stay? Permanently?
Yes, Your Majesty.
Ah, well, you see, Diu is a very small kingdom, a very small island indeed. And considering our population, yours is a very extraordinary request. I must have time to think it over. Soon. You say you wish to settle down in our land permanently. Bring me a bowl and some milk. Fill it up to the brim. Now, you see, our little land is like this bowl full of milk. One more drop, and it will overflow.
May I have that bowl of sugar? As you can see, the milk dissolves the sugar. So, the milk has not overflowed. The sugar has been absorbed.
I see. Most impressive. Now, yes?
If you would let me finish, my lord. The milk has been enriched and sweetened by the sugar. We will be absorbed into your country, sweetening and nourishing it without straining your resources.
A most persuasive argument, certainly. What do you think?
Perhaps if you made certain conditions, my lord, to safeguard our people.
The ruler, Jadab Rana, set 5 conditions that these new immigrants would have to meet if they hoped to make India their new home. First, they had to give a full explanation of their religion. Secondly, they would have to hold all religious ceremonies after dark, so that they wouldn't in any way influence the Hindus. They would learn the new language, Gujarati, and in order to make assimilation more visible, the women would wear the traditional Indian garments. Because these immigrants came from Pars and spoke ancient Persian, Farsi, they became known as Parsis. The king then gave his final condition.
And finally, I would want your people to lay down their arms and never raise them against us in anger. Then welcome to our country.
Thank you, Your Majesty. The king has agreed. We have a home of our own.
From Diu, my ancestors went to Sanjan on the west coast of India where they settled for centuries. Then they moved to Bombay where their rise to power and profits began with the coming of the British Raj.
Once the British took over control of India, the Parsi people began to lose their identity. The British often installed themselves by sending missionaries to convert the entire Indian population. One such missionary who had enormous effect was John Wilson.
Sir, do you know what your prayers mean in that strange language you say them in?
No, sir. But we have learned all our prayers by heart through our oral tradition.
Tradition is a wonderful thing. No one stands behind it as we British do, but you should at least know why it's there. I have a work here, one of your holy books. It is called the Bundahissen. You have heard how the Christian Gospels deal with the question of good and evil. Now I will describe to you how it is dealt with in one of your own religious works. Evil arrived in this world, we read, in the shape of a snake, which burst through the skies, followed by a mob of fellow demons. Whether they were in the shape of smaller snakes, or perhaps worms, is not mentioned. Ladies and gentlemen, I implore you, reject this ridiculous book of yours.
How dare you?
And the many others you have. Take instead our beautiful Bible. We deal with real situations, real people. Moses, Abraham, the great kings David and Solomon, and our beloved Lord Jesus.
Yeah! Reverend, what about your book of Genesis? And what about your nonsense about snakes and apples? And that Adam living for 930 years? Bloody humbug!
Sit down, बैठ जाओ. What right? We haven't come to listen to you. बैठ जाओ, खाली पीली कट कया करो. We know your authority on absolutely nothing. बैठ जाओ.
Ladies, please don't misunderstand me. Since arriving in your country, I've been deeply impressed by the devout and upright character of the Parsi community. They have, quite justifiably, earned the deepest respect, both of the British and Indians in Bombay. Small though your community is, it has become a major influence in India today. Now you're talking some sense. So I wonder that such a forward-thinking, intelligent people should really follow a religion that believes that snakes can come through the sky, as if the sky were a wrapping around the world that can be penetrated and torn at any point. Does such a religion have anything valid to say to our society today?
Yes, sir. We have a great deal to offer to the world today. If our people would sit and read the Gathas, which have the translation in English and Gujarati, they will learn the message of our prophet.
Maybe, could be so.
Who has the time to read all that, eh? Look at all the wonderful stories the Bible tells. Love stories.
You men only have one thing in mind.
Oh, so you're so grand, eh? Johnny Maiji, તમે આટલા હોશિયારમાં ખપોસ નહીં. So tell me the meaning of your prayer, Ashimbo.
Johnny, Johnny, don't be so chicky, Mickey monkey. Maiji, why are you calling me a monkey? Vandra to more aiche. I'm more Vandra che wo to che.
Do you know that in some parts of Gujarat, Parsi men still have more than one wife, and you allow this pagan practice?
You're quite right, Reverend Wilson.
Like most religions, Zoroastrianism is one with many different interpretations. It reminds me of the differences in orchestras. In Europe and America, the orchestras get their instructions and that's it. In Israel, instructions are given and then discussions and arguments commence. As I get this nicht, even before a note is played. We Parsis are like that. We are a very argumentative lot.